So for this week's vlog, we have the two movies, Black Orpheus and Pan's Labyrinth. The first movie was Black Orpheus, and it was the retelling of the Greek story of Orpheus and Eurydice, which basically is pretty similar to the movie, in which like Orpheus and Eurydice, they fall in love, and she dies, and in order to get her back, he plays music, and in the Greek story, he plays music to Hades and Persephone, and they allow him to retrieve her, but he cannot look at her. And in both stories, he does, and then she's gone for good. She's truly dead, and he dies as well. So the myth in this is, more classical myth. It's Greek mythology. Black Orpheus also follows the Greek tragedy pattern because it's also, like a romantic tragedy. It's the typical they both die thing. One main important thing about Black Orpheus is the music, the bossa nova, I think that's how you say it, the trend, which literally means a new trend in Portuguese, I think. It started a whole music thing, but the whole Orpheus's whole thing, or Orpheus, is music, and that he's so good at, he plays music very well, so, and that's how he ends up getting her Eurydice back, even though he does lose her. So that's a really big, the score, the soundtrack of the movie is really important to the telling of the story because the music is what makes him him. Also, things to note about that movie for the Greek mythology. In the movie, there's a man named Hermes, like the god Hermes, the messenger god. Also, there is a dog named Cerberus, which is Hades' three-headed dog who guards kind of like the gates a little bit of the underworld. So yeah, and then for Pan's Labyrinth, this is more of like a fairies, fauns, monsters type telling, which can parallel Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, they have the satyrs, which are like fauns. In Percy Jackson, they have fauns, so, which is kind of like modern Greek mythology. And there's also, like monsters. And one thing that the professor noted about the movie was the difference between choice and obedience. So Ophelia, the main character of the story, she's dealt with 3 tasks, and with each task she's given the task and she's supposed to just follow. She's supposed to be obedient. But she believes in herself, and so sometimes she really the second and third task, she decides to instead of following the task and being obedient, she does what she thinks is right. And one thing I noticed was that instead of being, the typical type myth that you can just seem as, just like a fairy tale, but her father is the king of the underworld, and when she dies, she goes to rule. And not that it is Hades per se, but it can parallel Greek mythology in that way. One thing that I noticed about the, I guess the movie filmmaking aspect of it was that the CGI is really central in telling the story because, you have the fairies, the 3 fairies, the pale man, which was like the monster, you have the faun, you have the huge throne room at the end. Most of that is CGI, and without the CGI you wouldn't have such a good understanding of what the monster, the fairy, the faun, all of those things were supposed to represent. So yeah.